There's a lot of sirens and there's police presence all over the place and sirens going off and people on the loudspeaker telling people to go away.
I walked to Centennial Park, and on the way there, I walked past Driver Avenue, Moore Park, you know, where the cricket grounds are and stuff. And there were dozens and dozens and dozens of police vehicles all assembling. So then I decided I'd walk into the city via. I decided to walk around to the east. I thought I'd approach the city from William Street, but all across where Hyde Park is, the police had a sort of a cordon. So I walked all the way around almost ran down to Circular Quay and sort of came up George Street.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I was determined to, because the helicopter, as you said, the helicopters, the cars, the sirens, I thought, and I got to the city. The city was empty.
It's like 1984 or
I know.
It's just unbelievable that this is Sydney.
It was this morning in the city.
The guy in Parliament House said, we've got hundreds of letters regarding Julian Assange. So there's so many people must be writing in.
And that's a good thing.
Hundreds. So, you know, like, what does that say? You know, people people are really interested. Hundreds of letters.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
We're the ones who are guiding the politicians. You know, it's our country.
You're right, Emma. You're absolutely correct.
Look,
they're there to serve us.
And unless they hear from us, they're going to think they're doing the right thing.
But I was very polite to her staff, and her staff were actually very polite to me. And, you know, they sat there and listened to me gabble on about Julian Assange being in Belmarsh prison. And, you know, practically saying, it's so sad, isn't it? It was, you know, it was like I was talking to...
A few of us went to her office in person with a letter that we got a number of people to sign at Town Hall. Yeah. We had 60 signatures or something and handed it in. And they were very polite at the office, the staff were. And the same with Scott Morrison's office, they were polite.
We've identified a long time ago that this is not a party political matter. This is a cross-party matter. This is not a matter of left-wing politics versus right-wing politics. Right. This is a matter of the law, L-A-W, law.
Yes.
This is about law.
And they're not following
and the law
that.
is being corrupted.
Yes.
Yeah. So all those that are corrupting the law need to be reminded consistently that they're corrupting the law, like we do with the cops if they try and move us off the steps. You know, we just remind them that they're corrupting the law, and they ultimately back off, you know, because when the truth put in your face, you tend to, you know, it's hard to say, no, it's not. You know, I'm allowed to breathe this air. No, you're not. Yes, I am.
Yes.
We are a bunch of individuals. And we do what we individually think is best. And, you know, sometimes we agree with each other and sometimes we don't agree with each other. You know, sometimes we have arguments. People have dropped out of the group. That's all part of the dynamics of a group. And I think our strength is our diversity and our respect for our diversity. And in fact, my belief that our diversity gives us more strength because we cover a wider cross-section of the community. So I think we're entirely on track, and I don't think we need to change a thing. You know, I think we need to continue without, well, we can't do anything else. I mean, in this COVID lockdown, we're really stuck at home and we've got a telephone and a computer and that's it. You know, we've got those tools. And I think this idea of Billy's, of targeting these seats that are held by a few hundred votes, is gold, is absolute gold.
a preliminary court hearing is scheduled for the 11th of August. So they're having a campaign with the Don't Extradite Assange campaign outside the Royal Courts on the 11th of August. So we might have some more information as to what's going on then, I guess.
We're still in lockdown.
Yeah, I guess we can't do a lot. I suppose we can do those Twitter storms and get on social media, write to people, ring politicians. Unfortunately, we can't get out there, but...
Well, I think the big thing that we have to engage in is creating unity among all people. So amongst our group, because as you said, there's very divisive times, but it's even more divisive outside of our group than inside of our group. So, but you know, that is the number one thing. So, and I think that people, individuals in the group, bring something unique that no one else will understand, which I think you kind of mentioned. But I think that we should allow that. We shouldn't be saying there's one way and everyone has to fit that way. So I think, you know, we've got lots of different skills. They come naturally and through our experience. And if we allow our authentic selves to participate in the support of Julian, this unity, which is, he's very big on unity, Julian was. There are the major things that Julian is on about, really. Like I mean, all people are on about, really, I think, except for maybe the oligarchs, but it's justice, peace, and freedom. They're the main things. Then what Julian has done is said, well, why are we losing these things? We need greater levels of democracy to preserve them. And the way to have democracy, the people have to be informed. And so, because there are people in governments and oligarchs or whatever, obviously doing things that we don't want them to be doing, and we are not even informed about it. So what he was doing was informing us by creating WikiLeaks and making it possible for whistleblowers to reveal what's actually going on, so that there was some transparency to the system rather than what we've got, an opaque system that just does what it wants. There's no one person deciding. It's probably lots of competing oligarchs seizing opportunities. But we need to be constraining them. The people need to be constraining that. And so to do that, we have to have unity. And there is no substitute for unity. And at the moment, there is huge disunity. So half the people want to get a vaccination, half the people don't want to get a vaccination. And they're ramping up the propaganda to divide and conquer us. Call us conspiracy theorists, whatever. I don't care if you're pro vaccine. Like, I care that I think that it's not a good thing to be in, but you have the right to be pro-vaccine, and but you also have the right to be anti-vaccine. So unity is the thing that's being destroyed at the moment by this COVID stuff, COVID propaganda. So what we have to do is create unity. And you create unity by valuing each individual person as they are with their authentic selves. And we don't discount anyone, we don't close, it's about inclusion, not excommunication. So that's that. And so then I came up with an idea. I wrote on Twitter, how do we create unity? And one of the people came back saying, have open meetings, like town hall meetings. I don't think she said town hall, and I thought, yes, that's fine when there's not a lockdown. But when there is a lockdown, what do we do? So now but I thought about it and I thought, well, and we're allowed to go outside, we're allowed to walk, taking exercise. And we're allowed to deliver mail, because apparently the mail hasn't been said that you can't deliver mail. So we can letterbox drop in our local community, and we can say, we are trying to, the Julian Assange town hall group or whatever gatherings are trying to create unity in the community. And here's a Zoom meeting that's been set up on a regular basis to discuss A, B, C, D, E, things like that. So because I'm sure everybody's recognizing there is a terrible thing happening about the unity of people. It's very divisive. I think a lot of people are going to be recognized, whether you're pro-vaccine or against vaccine, you can see there'll be people in their own families that they can't talk to. And we have to get that back. And I think Julian is the man, because he's got that big quote. There is unity in the oppression. There must be absolute unity and determination in the response.
Yes, exactly.
I'm not sure how it's just an idea, and I think it needs fleshing out, but I think it could work, because it's not like we're fighting the police or anything. We're just doing what we're able to do. But if we can make that expand, we can get a lot of information out to the public, because it's very hard to get information out to the public at the moment without. Yeah. So that's my idea, and
no, I couldn't agree more with you, Steve. Absolutely. It's been overwhelmingly lately, because I noticed within my own circle of friends, there is division taking place. And that division sometimes cuts through family lines even, between parents and children and so forth, and between partners even. I'm seeing this division take place. And, one day I just typed some words into Facebook and put it out there, because it was what I felt was where we were heading, and it was a disunity that was happening. It was a division, but within the community. And as we all know, that division is failure for that group and power to those that are dividing us. And so I wouldn't mind just reading that out so we can put it on the record, on our meeting record, if I may.
Yeah. Yes.
And I wrote in inverted commas in capital letters, fear. We all respond to it with reptilian segments of our brain. I have fear of sharks and misinformation, while others fear germs and disease. Let us respect each other's fears, no matter how irrational they may appear to be. Let's use our mammalian brains to stay compassionate and connected in this divisive world, please. And that's my message. And that's how I'm going to carry myself in future. We should do what we think is the best for Julian. And if we all personally do what we individually think is best, it's a better outcome because we're all going to be doing slightly different things. Whereas if we're all lockstep with each other, we're going to hit one audience and one audience only. And that's not what it's about. It's about all audiences. It's about that unity. It's about bringing everybody in and accepting everybody's point of view.
Yes.
Hello, Tom.
Connecting.
Hi, Tom.
Okay, I've unmuted. I just thought I'd call in to say good day and say I'm interested and like what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Tom. Good to have you on board. Thanks for joining us.
Have we seen you at Town Hall, Tom?
That's correct. I did appear there once.
Yeah. Okay, so you're the Tom that came a couple of months or so ago?
That's about it, yeah. Pertinent to this, I think, is a quote from Fidel Castro. And he said that he was able to bring about the Cuban Revolution because he was the one that could unite all of the forces as one effort. And at the moment in the world, we've got so many passionate people, but all being on different sides or same sides, but something different. And while we keep fighting one another, we are the many, they are the few, but we've split ourselves into tiny little groups of few and fight each other. And the few that we really should be opposed against are controlling us through our media, and the media actually is the clinch of the all. And gee, I wish we had Julian Assange.
No, well, Tom, that's the topic of our discussion today, is that unity and how absolutely essential unity is in times like this, and how the world is becoming ever more divisive, which seems to be part of the narrative, to divide us, to break us up into, split families up and split friendships up and so forth. And we're all noticing that around us, and that will stop change happening, and that's the way to maintain the status quo, is to break up any opposition into splintered groups that are at each other's throats. And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of that the deeper we get into this current situation. Have you got any ideas on how we can reverse that trend, Tom?
I'm quite pessimistic for the future. Actually, I see that every way we're being beaten, our opposition is being strengthened. It really is functional on information, and more our media is clamping down and being controlled by the same few. There's plenty of good voices out there, but how to get them heard is what I don't have the answer. No, I only got problems, no answers.
Well, I guess we've been aware of the media narrative, and in particular the absolute flagrant propaganda that's perpetrated by the national broadcaster, the ABC in Australia and the BBC in Great Britain. And our way of countering that is is an analog way, if you like, where it's one person at a time. I mean, that's why we're on town hall when we can, every Friday, like clockwork, bang, bang, bang. We're just there and we're winning people over one at a time, because when you win one person over, they go on to win over a number of people. It's like the branches on a tree. As you go out on the branches, they split into ever, finer branches, and you get a spread of information. And coupled with the use of social media, we're all strong users of social media. That's the other way to disseminate information. Although they're clamping down on that and censoring that. Stephen here, he's come up with an even more analog solution in these times of lockdown. He's established that we're actually legally allowed to print leaflets and do letterbox drops. So, even a thing like, printing out a leaflet explaining what's going on and dropping it in all the letterboxes in your neighbourhood is a way of, getting the word out there, because the truth has a way of growing. The truth, there's an old saying, the truth will out. You can only keep the truth hostage for so long, and eventually it gets out. It finds a way to the light. It looks for the light and it finds the light. And all we can do is, do it one person at a time. It's down to the analog thing, and where we can multiply our effect with social media or letterbox drops or whatever, we've just got to do what each of us individually can do. And if we all pull together, if we have that unity, we will succeed.
I agree with what you say. When you've constructed a nicely presented leaflet with good information on it, publish it. And I'll have some printed on this side of the country, and I'll do a bit as well.
Wonderful. Whereabouts are you?
WA, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah, WA.
Oh, I remember. I think I remember you, Tom. Yeah. Well done. Good on you for staying in touch. You're on our email list, are you?
That's correct.
It's when things look the grimmest that is when the most change is about to take place. I go back 50 years to 1971 when we were in Vietnam and my marble had been pulled out and I was joining the army to go to Vietnam. And all of a sudden, Gough Whitlam came out of the woodwork and said, it's time we got out of Vietnam. And he was swept to victory by a landslide. And nobody predicted it. The coalition had won 2 successive federal votes based on Vietnam War. But we, as a country, we were lockstep. We were the only ally of America in Vietnam, and we were lockstep with America in that war against the Vietnamese. And in the blink of an eye, along came Gough Whitlam, and bang, everybody said, nah, we've had a gutful of this Vietnam War, bring the boys home. And he did it so quickly, everybody's was in shock. So although we're looking, at a very dismal situation at the moment, I know that can change very quickly. And we've got a federal election looming. And I know for a fact that any politician that's standing against Julian Assange is going to be a very nervous politician at this point in time, because they know that if you go into a pub and mention Julian Assange, the majority of people are going to go, they're not really giving him a fair go, are they? They ought to get their knee off that poor bastard's neck. By God, he doesn't deserve what he's getting. That's going to be the average Australian's attitude to what's going on. And after 10 years of media slaughter, of media character assassination, for that to occur is an indication of a huge change in how we perceive what's going on around us, the broad population. So although, like you, Tom, I feel that there is concern and there is reason to be very pessimistic as we stand here on the cliff edge of a totalitarian regime, I also think that we're on that cliff edge where that totalitarian regime is going to fall into that abyss, and we're going to be all standing on top of the cliff cheering. It can go either way. And I think we've got to just stay strong and stay positive and onward and upward, and not, as the Timorese say, to resist is to win. And as long as we're resisting, we're winning.
So what do you think, Tom? And how's WA? Is there anyone in support, any politicians over there in support of Julian?
The Greens, the members for Greens in WA are supporting Julian. The others aren't. I've personally lobbied them quite a bit. My elected official representative in the government happens to be Christian Porter, and I think you've got more chance of getting ScoMo to support Julian than Christian Porter. He's part of the gang. So I don't believe I've got any leverage that can move him.
God, no.
When you go to Vietnam, which I've done, and you go to their museum, their War Museum, they have a whole area dedicated to the protests in the West that ended the war. And Australia, and it's beautiful. As an Australian, I felt proud because our protests, for the size of country we are, exceeded the protests in America. And they acknowledged that we led the retreat from Vietnam, and Gough Whitlam was acknowledged, and all the political figures that were around Gough Whitlam at the time are all acknowledged for having ended the war.
The US has never won a war, but the military complex has won every war.
Yeah.
And so by heating up this Cold War, everybody is buying more weapons, and that's what it's all about. We got to make a Cold War so that we can get that military industrial complex making exorbitant profits.
Yeah.
And the military industrial complex has a disproportionate influence over the US government. And I think we saw that on the invasion of Iraq, and what's his name in the government there also had very big ties to one of the biggest arms manufacturers in the US. Trump was reported to have said, he said about a Cold War, he said, "Bring it on, we will outspend them." And that was one of the reasons why the Soviets fell apart, was because they outspent on military. The US can just, if they run out of money, they can start up the printing press and hook off a whole lot more. But they're trying to run China and Russia into enormous debt by making them have a very big expenditure on armaments and preparing for war.
There was a recent incursion into Crimea and into the Caspian Sea by a British frigate, I think it was, went into the territorial waters of Crimea, and Putin scrambled half a dozen jets and sent a message. I think he sent it straight to the Americans saying, "Look, get out of here. We can sink this boat in a blink of an eye, and it won't start World War III. You're right out of order here. Like, get out, go now." And they retreated. They pulled out. But you got to ask the question: what's a British frigate doing in the Caspian Sea in the territorial waters of the Crimea? And the Americans have come up with some new, pretty sophisticated weapons. And I think they're just chafing at the bit to give them a go, you know, to try them out. To you know, a bit like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you know, we've got this new weapon, let's demonstrate to the world, and then everybody will be subservient to us again. Like in 1945, everybody turned to America and said, yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full, sir. And America just wants to reassert that position.
If we can take back the control of the Australian government and stop being a little attack dog for the USA and stop joining in America's adventurism, I think the Americans would be far less antagonistic and far less prepared to go to war if they couldn't automatically just call on Australia and Australia be right there at their heels. I think that'd take a lot of wind out of their sails. I think we could have done that in Iraq. If we hadn't have joined with the coalition of the willing, they would have been much less willing to go into that fight.
But the most important aspect of the Australian-American alliance is the Five Eyes and our base at Pine Gap. Our base at Pine Gap forms a critical point on the surface of the Earth that gives America surveillance of the whole planet. We are a key part of that global surveillance.
We are a key target in any conflict that might arise.
Absolutely.
We are all Assange.